hopefully inspiring conversation centered around Black history and beyond, and highlighting some of our local Black authors. I was just so excited when the Janet F. Harte Public Library reached out to us to collaborate on doing something for Black History Month. I think it's necessary that we have conversations surrounding history. History is the study of past events, particularly in human affairs. And so there's nothing wrong with celebrating history, because there's a lot of it. And if you didn't know, Black history is American history. Yeah. Some people, I think, don't realize that why we have a Black History Month. It was started by Carter G. Woodson. And the reason why it was started by him is because, and this is history, meaning it's factual, Black people were banned by law from reading. It was against the law for Black people to read. Do you hear me? It was against the law for Black people to read. So what did we do? We innovated and then started to share our stories orally. But when that was found out, that became against the law. So you see the problem, you see the dilemma. How are we, and at the time, significant number of our ancestors were enslaved. You know, why was there such an effort to prevent us from even knowing who we were, or even passing on knowledge of who we were? And so what you had was people like Carter G. Woodson working with, you know, as Black people got their freedoms, either by any means necessary, they educated themselves, they read in secret, they became literate in secret, and then began to strategize, how are we going to tell our stories? How are we going to document what's been happening to us so that we can have this information to pass on to the next generation? And so you had Carter G. Woodson came up with this idea of Black history, and then he was helped by a lot of Black teachers who were able to teach Black students, because you had segregated schools, okay? So if you actually do the work, it's extensive. But this is why we have Black History Month, because we were denied access to even publishing information, reading about information, even sharing information about our history and what was happening, and the things that were happening to us, the good things and the bad things. So with that, we're just honored today to partner with the Harte Library to have the conversation, showcase some of our local Black authors. And so I want to welcome you once again on behalf of the Black Chamber. And now I would like to bring forward our co-laborer, Ms. Colleen with the Harte Institute, with the Janet F. Harte Public Library. Come forth and bring welcome on behalf of the library.
Thank you so much, Coretta, and thank you so much for helping me out with this. This is a program that I've wanted to do for a couple of years now, and I just had no idea where to start. And someone told me contact our local Black Chamber of Commerce, so that is what I did, and Coretta has helped me set up. She's found our lovely panelists for me that are here today to talk. Is this working? Okay. So we have Dr. Tammy Francis here from Catalyst for Change Global. We have Mr. Clifton Pope. He's a personal trainer, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur, and founder of the Health, Fitness, Wealth Business. And we have Ms. Liza Wisner. What? I said that right? So, Liza Wisner, who has many books that she has written, including some children's ones that I'm very interested in. I'm the youth librarian here. So yes, I will turn it over to our panelists, and I will let them take it from here.
All right, so hello everyone. Thank you all for being here. I am Tammy Francis, PhD, better known as Dr. Tammy. I'm a mother, a daughter, a best friend and sis, the foundation, the fountain, the strategist, a Jedi, an advocate who keeps her eye on access. It's been a trio of degrees and more than 2 decades later. In person or online, I'm always an educator. From the Lone Star State, I eagerly anticipate all that you will create. I am your catalyst for change, or C4C. Let's take a journey through the metaverse, Web3. Let's connect the blockchain. I will explain and train so that you will expand and maintain. The information and education will guide you through this digital transformation. Purposefully, with clarity, your vision will become reality. And that's how I help you move in the direction of more and prepare for what's next. And a lot of what I do start with purpose. So I'm not sure what else we're supposed to do, but that's my introduction.
How's everybody doing today? All right. That's good, that's good. Well, my name is Clifton Pope. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur, personal trainer, motivational speaker, a self-published author, just telling his own story, trying to make history within himself to where the world could look at it and see this guy is kind of what health is wealth is all about. Because they say health is wealth, so let's just put it together. That way we can create not only generational health, that way we can break generational curses, but at the same time, break generational wealth as well, as far as just breaking the curses within that. That way we can create more blessings on blessings and at the same time be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And that is the core concept of what my brand and company, Health Fitness Wealth Business, is all about, to its entire epicenter of everything that I'm currently doing. And that's pretty much my introduction and me just being just the best version of an internal child.
I love that. Health is wealth. And our catalyst over there, Dr. Tammy, leading the charge. Do we have a poet here? An author, a poet, a rapper? I don't know. There was some magic happening. There was some stuff happening there, and I was like, is that who was starting? She should have been over here. Right? Yeah, I know. I was feeling it. I was like, is there some vibes around here? We should be like moving
The 80s rap.
We should be moving to it. Yeah. I'm Liza Wisner. I am so excited to be here with you all. My pronouns are she, they, and y'all. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to start by giving a land acknowledgement for the community that we're in. We are actually in the traditional and the unceded territories of the Inde, the Lapanafachi, and the Karankawa, and other tribal names that we have unfortunately forgotten. And I just want to say it's very important to acknowledge the foundation that we are on. And I think that is really a great, I guess you could say, connector, a great piece of opportunity to connect a thread of what Coretta, who is our president of the Black Chamber of Commerce, connected the dots for us in regards to our history being the foundation of who we are. It cannot be forgotten, it cannot be erased, right? And it's important to celebrate it. And so I celebrate the ancestors who really, they took care of our land and our air and our water and everything that we are today is based upon the foundation that we have through our ancestors. And that's really where my story comes from. When I think about being an author, I'm the first one to say, I'm not a writer, but I really do like putting my thoughts and ideas on paper. And so that's really what I do. I just put my thoughts and ideas on paper. I love reading books by Dr. Tammy, by Mr. Pope, and I really feel like the opportunity for me here is to really think about how I can be a support system in the community. So that's really what I'm known for. I'm a talent development expert, and I'm the founder of an organization called powerup.org. And it actually stands for providing opportunities where everyone rises up I have a computer science degree, so naturally I am focused on bridging the digital divide, really understanding that technology is not a luxury nowadays, and a lot of opportunities are put in front of us, but there's a barrier for access, because if you do not have that bandwidth, or if you don't have that phone, or if you don't have that opportunity to be able to access the technology, then you're really being left behind. And where does that leave our community? We can only go as fast as the person who is slowest in our community. We cannot exceed that pace, right? The people can go as fast as they want, they end up moving on, right? We have to make sure that we're serving everybody in our community. And that's where I'm coming from, in terms of being here with y'all. I'm excited for this opportunity to talk about book authorship. I think it's important for us to know that each and every single one of us has a unique story that we all want to hear and we all want to understand. Earlier, I was just mentioning to somebody how important it is to read books from authors that are diverse. It really adds to the richness of the tapestry that we have in our lives. When I think about myself wearing glasses, I just think, wow, what if I took your glasses? That's like when I read your book, right? I took your glasses, I put them on, and I'm seeing things the way you're seeing them. And just imagine how diverse your world is compared to mine. I could never have your lived experiences. And the only way that we're going to have more empathy for each other, more kindness and more compassion, is if we're able to see things from each other's perspectives. And how do we do that? Is by telling our stories, writing them down, and having other people read them, and having documented. So, yeah, thank you all so much for being here. And I guess maybe we're going to go ahead and get started with some panelist questions. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you so much. So, starting off, I just wanted to see what does celebrating Black History Month mean to you personally? Like, do you have any traditions that you personally do, or just in general? What was it like? What does it mean to you personally?
So Black history, I think Coretta touched on some of the things already about just in general. I think right now my charge is to educate, encourage, and inspire. So I think about how I got to where I am. And so Black history is about honoring those who blazed trails and set a path for me to do what I do. I don't think I can do what I do around the world. You know, I've been in and worked with people in 15 countries plus and counting. And so I think that because my ancestors have done so much, their blood, sweat, and tears, that I really stand on their backs. And so because of that, everything that I do, I take that into account. So Black history, I find it a time to do events like this. I find it a time to do awareness, to talk about the different aspects, the different topics as it relates to Black history, or history as it relates to Black people. So for right now, that's what I do. I'm sure it's constantly evolving. I like to make sure that whatever I'm doing during this month is pushing the culture forward. And so, and whether it's dealing with tech, generational wealth, if it's getting us to power up and rise to the occasion, the things that I do is around that. So, I'm an educator. So I've been an educator for 24 years and counting. And so because of that, part of the way I take on Black History Month is to educate. But I'm also one of those that believe in purpose. So inspiring and encouraging and making sure people know what's next for you. Like, what are you going to do next based on what's going on in the world? We hear a lot about AI. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later, right, Lisa?
Yep.
And some of those things, because she has a book out, by the way, y'all should read it. And, we're talking about this digital transformation, which I mentioned in my introduction, the metaverse, all these things. And I think this is an opportunity for Black people to really get into it, get on the ground floor, and because it's a level playing field. There's no experts in the areas that I play in. And so because there's no experts, now is an opportunity for many people who are typically marginalized, underrepresented, can get involved. And so this is the month that I really just take charge and really am a little more focused. I do it 365 days. I don't just do it in Black History Month, but I think in this month, I just say, yes, I'll participate. I volunteer my time and my services during this month to just educate and inspire.
What does Black History Month mean to me personally? That was the question.
Yeah.
just being able to just witness all the great revolutionary leaders that came before us as far as what they went through as far as growing up, so to speak, what they went through as far as to get into the positions that they were in to achieve the accomplishments that was set out throughout history and everything, and just really just storytelling, really, to me. That's what Black History Month is meaning more to me, and because it kind of just goes back to everyone in this room has their own story to tell, and within Black History Month, well, Black America, really, because that's pretty much the foundation of Black History Month, because of Black America and everything that. The mic went out? Oh, never mind. Oh, it basically is just the foundation of just all the revolutionary leaders, just being able to tell their stories, being able to present, of course, their experiences to the world, the accomplishments that they were able to achieve, to where someone within the next generation, within the information that was provided, they could be able to understand that from the next generation going on, not only why is it important, but at the same time being able to continue to push the message that we've been trying to push really for centuries, 1800s, that kind of stuff, as far as just we need more diversity, we need more equality, and we need more unity as far as within just being able to push this whole entire country forward, because at the end of the day, we all want to succeed. It's just a matter of just staying united to where we can stand tall versus dividing to where we will fall. That's what Black History Month means to me going forward.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be divided, right? I always say we're stronger together, right? Like that's really the point, right? So it's not about whether we're celebrating Black History Month or whether we're celebrating Hispanic History Month or Asian American History Month's coming up, right? So there's just so many other things that we could be celebrating. Women's History Month is in March. So yeah, so super excited about that also. For me, yes, clap for the women. Yeah, power up women. But Black History Month for me, so I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. So when I came here to the United States, I came here to go to school at Corpus Christi. Go Islanders, by the way, y'all Islanders. So when I came here, I didn't know what Black History Month is because we don't celebrate Black History Month in Kenya. Okay, we're pretty much all Black people there. So like it's pretty much we don't have a Black History Month, okay? We're already celebrated, okay? So when I came here in college, they're like, we're celebrating Black History Month. I'm like, what does this mean, Black History Month? Like, people are gonna be wearing black, what? No, it's the people. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're celebrating Black History Month. So I didn't know what it was. But then of course, when I learned about it, I really kind of internalized it because I felt like, there was such an opportunity here for us to not only recognize the struggles of the Black people, not only in the United States, but around the world. I think about my foundation that I'm on, right, and the opportunities that I've had. And I think about my great-grandma, Joaquin Ongo, by the way, and her name, the name I've given you is not actually her real name. That's the name of the prison that she was in for defying the laws of our white colonists in Kenya, right? So we were colonized by the British. And what she was doing was trying to get more opportunities for Black people in the community, literally just trying to put roofs, metal roofs on the buildings. She was getting put in prison over that because we were supposed to have thatched roofs, not metal roofs, right? And so things like this, I think about the foundation that my great-grandma was trying to build on trying to elevate the presence of Black people, right? And then I think about myself coming here to the United States. I think about when I learned about the civil rights movement, right? When I think about Martin Luther King and all the other people who fought for our rights to be here. Y'all need to know, I came here to the United States on a scholarship, in a sport that is unlikely for a lot of people. I came here to play golf, y'all. So I came here on a golf scholarship. And when I think about that opportunity, when I think about Black History Month, I think about how much work had to be in place for me, Liza Wisner, with Black skin from Kenya, to come here and be allowed to play golf in the United States. It was already hard enough for us to play golf in Kenya before we got our independence from the British. No Black people could play golf, right? But then now I came across the waters here, and the same effort was happening in the United States as it was happening across the ocean. So it just, for me, Black History Month really reminds me of the fact that no matter where we are in the world, we are all going through this thing, right? Going through this thing where we want to be acknowledged, we want to be seen. There's this song by Beyonce, right? It's called Bigger. And I always love the first part of it. And she goes, if you feel insignificant, you better think again. better wake up because you're part of something way bigger. And I love that part because it makes me want to stand up and realize the foundation that my great grandma built, she can't imagine the life I'm living right now. She could never have imagined I would have flown across the ocean, come here to the United States, gotten on a television show called The Apprentice, built companies and just done amazing things, and I have my own children. Can you imagine? We are the dreams of our ancestors. So for me, I think not only are we acknowledging our history, but I am celebrating not only our history, but I'm celebrating the people who come before us and done the things to fight through the opportunities that we have today that we get to enjoy. And so for me, celebrating Black History Month is not just about, having a month and saying, yeah, we did this. It's about acknowledging the foundation that has been built for us and seeing how we can elevate it, right? Like now it's our job, right? You were given this foundation. What are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna be remembered? What foundation are you gonna build for your legacy? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. And also, I love your point, Dr. Francis, about Black history is not just 1 month, it is 365 days. It is all year long. Yeah, that's true. We're in a leap year. So our next question is just what inspired you to publish? Like obviously you had your own stories to tell. What was the thing that inspired you to really take that next step and actually publish your own books? Do you want to start again, or you want someone else to start?
Okay, I'll start again. Apparently I got the spot where, think on the fly. So a couple of reasons why I chose to publish. One, I've always published. So just by the nature of my schooling and going that route and getting my master's degree and my doctorate degree, that's one of the things you're pushed to do in referee, peer-reviewed journals and do that. So I've done that. I've even done chapters in books. But to do some self-publishing and to publish my content, not under the guise of a publisher or someone else, but actually to do some self-publishing and to publish my work as an individual. Because I will say when I embarked on the self-publishing route, I did more of my individual work as opposed to when I did the other things. If I was in a journal, I did my own work, but the books I've done, I've always done part of anthologies and things like that. But when I did that, I was making the decision of a couple of things, which may not be as pretty as y'all may think. But I started thinking about like publishing houses and how the finances work, right? The royalties work and all of that. And I wanted to, if you don't know much about Web3, a lot of Web3, the basic tenets is this idea of one, decentralization, and two, removing the middleman, removing the person. And I know, speaking about Black history, so many of the people, my people, Black people, have been shortchanged because there's the middleman, whether it's in music, whether it's in art, whatever. And so I thought, if I'm gonna publish, I'm gonna do self-publishing route, which at the time in 2018 wasn't really as popular as it is now and accepted. But I decided to do that because I wanted my words into the world. And then I wanted to make sure that I maintain credit, and something that Clifton said earlier about this generational wealth. I also have children. So the idea of legacy and being able to pass that on and not have them go through red tape because of something I didn't do or sign or whatever. So they could continue to do what they wanted to do with my words, with my work. But I also think the things that I've published, especially like Read More, the words in there are quotes. And those are quotes that I use to encourage myself. But I thought, why not share it with the world, right? But oftentimes the words that you give are the words you seek. So some of those things, and I always saw people posting other people's words on social media, other quotes by other people on their page, and I decided I'm going to post original quotes. I have my own thoughts. I have these little quirky things that I say at random and in weird times. Why not capture those And then after they were on my page, I was like, oh, ownership, hello. I need to own this stuff because somebody can just, repeat it and share it like they do other quotes and get credit for it. So I said, I'm gonna put it in my book. And so Read More came where I just took all the things that I was posting out there that was original content, and I said, I'm gonna put it in the book. So 1 is ownership, 1 is legacy, number 2 is legacy, and 3 is because I think I have something to say, and I think it's worthy of saying, and I think others can benefit. A big part of what I do is impact, right? And wanting to impact others and encourage and inspire others. And so what I do is that. So why not share it and do what I'm meant to do and just be able to share it around the world, so.
I love how you were talking about legacy because that's super, super important, Dr. Francis, as far as just being able to leave a legacy behind. And since Lisa brought up the song about Beyonce, I'm going to bring up a song about Jay-Z. There's a song by Jay-Z called Legacy. Yes, there's a song by Jay-Z that's called Legacy where he says, legacy, 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 black excellence. What is he telling me? It's off of the last album he put out, 444 and everything. But I say that to say is that leaving a legacy behind is super, super important because that's kind of the reason why I decided to basically not only tell my own story by writing my own books, which by the way wasn't even part of the plan, to actually, the reason how it even came together is that one night I was having a conversation with my dad and he was just reflecting on his life and he was telling me like, man, son, you have no idea how much of a hell of a life that I lived. I lived a life so crazy to where I'm grateful for it, to where it's like, I want to tell a story about it and write my own book one day. And then the light bulb went off up in my head. I never thought about it until that night. I was like, if my dad wants to write a book, which he still hasn't done to this very day. I kind of beat him to it. I'm sorry, Dad, but I love you too, Dad. But anyways, that kind of sparked the interest of like, so if he could write a book, why not me? So I figured I'd give it a shot and I would basically tell my own story based off of just how I continue to grow through what I go through as far as just continuing to find ways to improve within my own life. But one thing I've learned ever since then is that it takes a lot of work to build a legacy, which is why you have to put in the work. That way you could create, again, your own version of generational wealth where you can pass on to the next generation as far as just the information and the resources to get you in that position in the first place, which is the whole entire concept of the first book that I've written and self-published called What's Wealth Without Work. And that kind of leads into the second book that I've written and self-published myself called A Dollar and a Vision, which is like basically seeing is believing as far as creating your own legacy. You have to see what kind of legacy you want to leave behind and believe that you can leave that legacy behind and basically just lay down the foundation in the process as far as just being able to leave that legacy behind. So overall, it's just seeing that vision and just cashing in on that opportunity and making something which is yours and something that you could leave behind again for the world within itself. So that's kind of the reason why I also wanted to publish, but at the same time, it's kind of what Dr. Francis alluded to, ownership, cutting out the middleman, because it's like, we've been shortchanged enough for decades, let alone centuries. So it's time to really take back what's ours, which is basically, even if it's 70% royalties versus, 40, 50%, I mean, every percentage counts when it comes to royalties to where you can take it back and to where it's yours, to where you can put it not only in your pocket, but of course, your kids, so on and so forth. It makes a difference within due time. So that's kind of the reason why I decided to publish, which was one, tell my story through the power of personal development, and again, just ownership, basically being the master versus being the slave, because we're sick and tired of that. It's been too long.
Thank you so much. I don't know if y'all are taking notes, but I'm over here Like what's wealth without the work? Ooh, that's kind of like people are like, oh, just get rich. It's like, yep, you gotta work for it.
You gotta work.
And then a dollar and a vision. I love that. Those are some really great titles. And reap more. I know Dr. Tammy's books so much. I don't know. I love Dr. Tammy so much. But I love the opportunity to talk about publishing because I said in the beginning, right? I'm not a writer, right? And so really what I was doing, and I brought these other books that are not, people don't have these books, but I just started off writing for myself, by the way. So it really just started off as me just trying to document things that I wanted to remember. So it really started off with this book, which I call my yearbook. How many of y'all maybe went to, you did, you have it? Okay. So how many of y'all in high school, wherever, you have a yearbook from your high school? Yeah? Sometimes do you flip through it, reminisce the past, right? So that's literally what I wanted to do because y'all remember I did not grow up here in the United States. We don't have yearbooks in Kenya. For some reason, I guess it's a commercialized thing here in the United States, but we didn't have yearbooks. So when I learned about yearbooks, I remember thinking, what a great idea. You literally start taking the pictures and just filling in, you just start filling in these pages, and then at the end of the year, maybe it's like a collection of your year, right? So I just put together my own book. I wasn't thinking people are gonna buy it, but the only way to get a book like this is really, you have to put it out there so that the publishing place can print it. So I wasn't expecting people to buy it, but people bought it, Dr. Tammy bought it, right? And so it was really just for me. But that was the catalyst to the opportunity for me to see how this can be an opportunity to publish. I have to also mention that I also had a partnership with Office Depot, and I'll let you know how that happened. So I used to go to Office Depot too much. So if y'all like planners, who in here likes planners, pens, Post-it notes, and all that? Yeah, like that's my jam. Okay, so if you take me to an office supply store, you know I'm gonna have a good time because I could be in there all day just walking through and looking at stickies and stuff. And so I was there too much. And so one of the people there was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm trying to put together my bullet journal. And I was explaining what bullet journaling is. Y'all, after sharing them my book, they wanted me to come and show people how to do bullet journaling. And even on top of that, it even progressed to where I do digital bullet journaling now. So I use my iPad for all my journaling. And so I take my, not only do I have them in physical copy, but I also have these in digital format. And so I can tell you that, yes, you can write, you can tell your stories, and you can do your history. But one of the things that you do, those little quirks that you use to keep productive, to keep you going, those motivational quotes that Dr. Tammy was saying, she put them together into a book that we all get to read more from, right? Those are our seeds.
So good. I'm taking you on the road.
Because I read your books, okay? Her books are amazing. They are just those words. Sometimes you flip the page and you see that quote, and then there's that thing of she's telling you what to do, you have to journal about it, and you're crying because you're like, I needed to hear that today, So these are the things that I hope my books do. Now I will tell you, when we talk about legacy, when we talk about income, that's not where I started, but I see it, right? I see this as like, not only did I just learn how to write this, I call it like my little journal book, right? I learned how to write this, but now I've got to the point where my latest book, which is Become an AI Hero. So with my computer science degree, I started seeing a gap in the conversation about AI ethics. I started seeing how my hero framework, which I use for pretty much everything, H starts for honor your foundation. We talked about legacy, making sure you're good, you got a strong foundation, solid rock, not sinking sand. And then E is for empathy, right? The E in hero is for having empathy, really seeing things from other people's perspectives. Your perspective is not always the right perspective, right? So just understand that other people see things a different way, and then hoping other people do the same for you, right? So that's that empathy. And then also the R, which is respect in action. What are you doing? Are you just saying things, or are you actually doing things? And then the O is for you to optimize your potential. It means that you have to educate yourself continuously, which means you have to educate others, which means that you have to learn what is going on in the world so that you can be able to translate that to how you're seeing it and translate it back to others, so that you're optimizing it, you're continuously growing. We're going to learn about Web 3.0. There's going to be a Web 3.0 book coming out, I guess, from Dr. Tammy. It's going to be all about the Internet of Things, all about blockchain, all about the metaverse. We're going to learn all about all those things. And the only way that that we get to learn about what you're passionate about is if you put it on paper, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but I love crafts, and I love jigsaw puzzles, and I love all these little things that I just think like some people may minimize that, but if you have that idea in you that you love how to do those things, well, there's people here who want to read about that. There's people here who are going to buy your books. I love learning about how to write calligraphy. who loves reading stuff that's written so beautifully with calligraphy, right? So I have a ton of calligraphy pens. My family's here, they can probably attest to the fact that I'm literally watching shows and calligraphying everything everyone is saying while I'm practicing my calligraphy. And I have a ton of calligraphy books, so they will tell you my bookshelf is full of them. I buy those books, right? So just for me, literature is really just about my passions. It's not about being the perfect writer. It's really just about putting what you want into a format that you'll find that you're gonna find your tribe, y'all. There's a tribe for you, whatever it is that you write, however you write. If it's a quotes book, if it's all text, maybe we can take a beat from like learning how to Dr. Tammy has her PhD, right? So she's probably like a literary genius here, she writes it all perfectly. We're not all like that.
Perfect.
Yeah. But at the same time, we all have value. I know our host mentioned that I do have some children's books. There's some really cute ideas I'm sure y'all have had about, a story about a mouse or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is, right? Put it on paper, because those are the stories you could be, you tell your kids these stories, you make up these stories for bedtime, but write it and put it down together, right? And just put your mind at ease. It's not that hard for you to publish. I think what do people say? It's not hard, it's easy, but it's not simple, right? So you still have to do the work and put it together and get the graphics and things. So it's easy, it's just not simple, and that's where we come in. We are the foundation, and I'm grateful for this literary spotlight for us to connect with each other and maybe create a network of people who are interested in writing more books.
That would be so awesome.
It would be awesome. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna start it right here.
Thank you so much. Okay. So,
It won't be on camera. There. You sit next to my son on that.
okay, so the next question is, what is the intersection between history and books by Black authors? Which I think we've touched a little bit with y'all, but is there any of the historical Black authors that specifically have spoken to you, like Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Frederick Douglass, still up there on the list of the most challenged books even to this day, and that. So is there any historical authors that have really spoken to you?
I'm going to sit with this a minute. So this response may not be my best response, because I probably have to sit with that. That's a really great question. But when you asked it, I'll just go with the person that I thought about immediately, and that was Toni Morrison, who is top on the most banned books even now. But I saw an interview with her, and it was about how she, people have always questioned why she only has Black authors. Characters. Why does she only write about Black? And she's like, well, one, that's my experience. And two, she said, you don't necessarily ask other people why they write about certain characters, but you're questioning why I'm writing about Black characters. And so in that moment, what I felt from her and that interview, and it was more to it than how I'm summarizing it, because I'm not doing a great job. Sorry, Toni Morrison. But what I got from that, as someone who was embarking on this journey myself, because I probably came across that right when I was in the thick of writing, because I do have a playbook that's more like a journal, and I have that. That was the first published book that I have, but Read More was the second, and that was really during the pandemic, and it was just during that time that I was, you get a little skeptical, like, should I publish this, should I not? And I will say that hearing her say that, one, affirmed that it was okay that I tell my story, I share my words, and I share it in the way that I want it. And two, some of the other things that I have in mind that I'm working on now, as Lisa shared with y'all, because I've shared it with her, I'm working on the book around Web3 and that content and the future of work. And it gave me permission to make sure, because I want to talk about those who are underrepresented, marginalized Black people. And so hearing that from her just said, you are the author. You write your story. You write what you want to write about. You write what you know people need. And the people who you're writing for will read your content. And that I know from her because, she's widely known, if I should say so myself. That was a joke because we all know her. But yeah, so I think for me, Toni Morrison has been impactful. Maya Angelou, definitely. I remember, I know why the cage bird sings, and when I read that, I was a stutterer growing up, so I didn't really talk a lot. And so reading that book when I was in high school, in my junior year, we read it in junior English, and it gave me, it showed me that, you can still do great things no matter your start. And so many other lessons from that book, but I think those two are the ones that are like historically top on my list. Of course, I have some new ones like Jasmine Ward and some other ones that I really like, but those two are really, just seeing their interviews and seeing what they've done and what they've created and the legacy they've left is really inspiring. So, yeah.
Sorry, what was the question again?
What is the intersection between literacy and history for you, especially any Black authors that have spoken to you?
There's one in particular that I was actually doing some research on a couple of days ago as far as just, that stuck out to me as far as books being banned from a controversial standpoint. Jerry Craft. And his two books, yes, Jerry Craft. I loved his meaning behind his books, especially like New Kid and Class Act and stuff like that, because it talks about how, of course, New Kid, for those who aren't familiar with the book New Kid, it talks about, a 7th grader named Jordan Banks, where he loves nothing more than basically drawing cartoons in his life, and but instead of sending him to like the art school that he wanted to go to and stuff like that, his parents enrolled him in like a prestigious private school known for its like academics. Long story short, he was trying to figure out ways to navigate through his new school culture while keeping his neighborhood friends and staying true to himself. So when I was doing research and looking into that, I try to apply what I'm going through into other contexts and stuff like that. So when I thought about it, it's really just about staying true to yourself as far as just being able to just tell your own story and just bridge the gap and kind of just connect the literature with the history to where you can make more history within the literature. So when I saw that book, I was like, man, that really defines pretty much what I'm currently going through on an everyday basis. Not only just trying to just unite people regardless of the color of their skin or what they choose to believe and stuff like that, but just continue to just have more of a sense of community, so to speak, because when you have more of a sense of community, you can build stronger towns, cities, and better just overall cities and states, and then you could, of course, build a whole entire better country. You could reshape that based off of the history that was told and that we all went through and stuff like that. So if I had to say, I would say New Kid by Jerry Craft. Because, hey, I'm just trying to be the new kid on the block trying to make a difference. That's what I would say.
Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, so the intersection, right, of history, authors. So one of the authors that I think of is, there's actually a book of Proverbs, African Proverbs, that I picked up, and I've read it so many times, and I don't even think I read it. I think I just open random pages and just read the page that proverb that's there. And it's put together by Desmond Tutu. And it's really a great little narrative of different proverbs, African proverbs, and then, the explanation and the stories that you can learn from there. But Dr. Tammy did a really great job of helping us really understand that, it's really about understanding that we each have our own voice and we each have our own intentions of why we're writing what we're writing, right? So it's not for other people to tell us, yeah, you're doing it the right way or you're doing it the wrong way. And who knows, it may be years and years, maybe decades later that people realize how powerful you are and all the writing and all the things that you put out that were important. But that's not your job, right? Your job is to really just tell what's in your spirit right now. Tell your unique story. You are literally an unrepeatable miracle in life. Like there's never, ever, yes, you are an unrepeatable miracle. There's never going to be another person like you. about the fact that you threw those covers off this morning, you are blessed today because you are here today. Can we have your story somewhere documented forever? Because there will never ever be another you, and I want to learn from you. I want to wear your glasses, right? I want to see things from your perspective. So I think for me, that's really what it means. It means when we think about the intersection between Black history and we think about where we are today, it's us being able to see a lens of what it was like, right? When we hear the historical context of how it was hard to live as a Black person, not only in the United States, but all over the world, right? So marginalized in terms of being seen as less than human, less than even pets, y'all, okay? So when you really think about it, the opportunity is about you telling your story as it stands today, right? And then the other one that I wrote down here was Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who is a writer from Kenya, and he's a Kikuyu writer, so I'm in the Kikuyu tribe. And he writes these awesome books. And he's almost like a poet, almost like Dr. Tammy's intro was so poetic. I need it written down and like somewhere. I need to look at it, right? And so we need a beat to your intro, man. We need a beat to your intro. Don't miss that intro, man. We need an outro, okay? So yeah, so good. But what I could say here is that he writes stories about my people, where I come from, my Kikuyu tribe. He talks about how this is before colonization, how we were exactly perfectly who we were. In fact, the book that I absolutely love, which I hope y'all can pick up, is called The Perfect Nine. And he talks about how, like, my name is Liza and Jerry Wisner, right? And so Jerry, how the legacy of the Jerrys came about, right? And if you don't know this, the women in African culture, they're the ones who are running the households, right? So when we think about I guess you could say the male presence here in the United States, it's actually opposite, right? When we think about the legacy of growing up in an African nation, you know who runs the house, right? It's the woman, right? And so who gives birth, who makes sure that things are working, right? So we really do have a strong position there. And so for me, I take strength in that. When I read The Perfect Nine, I listen to it on Audible sometimes when I'm driving. It gives me strength. It makes me remember like that song from Beyonce. You know, don't forget, like, yeah, today, right now, this second, you're feeling insignificant, but you are here for something bigger. You have a legacy, and you're building a legacy, whether it's for your children or whether it's for other people who are like you, who may see things a different way, who maybe have different thoughts, who have different passions. And then there's another author who I can almost say is going to be known historically, and she's just starting out in her authorship, is Elizabeth Leba. So this woman right here, right? When we talk about well-known authors, this is a woman who I saw her LinkedIn posts and her posts on Instagram, and I used to be like, who is that? And like she would make a post, and I'd be like standing up and going, yes, you know, like I wish I could do that in a comment, but I can't, right? You can't like record yourself in a comment, right? But she would make posts about the living life in the workplace, being a woman and being a Black woman, and she would just write, and it would just be stories that you're just like, I didn't even know how to explain that happened to me, but I didn't know how to explain it that way. And so for me, the stories that we think about historically, those were stories that were written for that legacy of people who lived that era. We need to celebrate the authors who are writing today for this era that we're living in, for this Web 2.0 era, for this workplace that we're in. And authors like Elizabeth Leba, I'm sure there's a ton of others, but she's the one that I'm jamming on right now. She has another book that's out called Protecting Your Peace. Protecting My Peace is what the book is. It's another one of just stories, telling stories, but I think for me the most important thing with the authors is let's say you're going through something, and I think if you're not able to unpack it, you end up reliving it over and over and over. Because sometimes you don't have the vocabulary to explain what happened to you. You just can't explain it. You're like, I'm feeling a certain way, I just don't know how to explain it. And what these authors do is they put words to how you're feeling. They put words to the actions you need to take. And I believe that is exactly why we all need to tell our story and how maybe we're overcoming, because just because the story has already been written about, like, let's say, you know, the 7 habits of highly effective people, how to influence people, right? Those people have written it from their perspective. I want to hear it from your perspective. How do you influence people, Leticia Wilson? You know, how are you effective in your life, right? I see Coretta here, pretty much doing everything in the community. Can we get a round of applause? We need a playbook, Coretta. We need a playbook, and so for me, that's what history is about. It's about seeing other people's playbooks, seeing how they managed the things that they did, and how they celebrated their lives, and then building on that. So, yeah, good question.
Alright. Let's check our facts.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you so much. I'm writing some of those down for our, to see if we can find them, get them in our system.
Yeah.
All right. So the final one that I have for you is, of course, we've touched a little bit about it, but of course about book bannings, because of course there's been, Black authors have exponentially been more banned throughout all of history than white authors. And so, of course, it's like we have a lot of hoops in that you have to jump through now, but there's still a lot of challenges that get put out. So I just wanted to know some of your thoughts on like how has that had a personal impact on you, or in general, have you seen the impact of it on your community? You want someone else to start? I know.
I'll think.
Let me tell y'all.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I am passionate about is people sharing their voice and being heard. It doesn't mean you have to agree or you have to follow their path, but let people share their voice and let them be heard. I also believe that parents should have the opportunity to lead the children the way they believe they should lead their children, right? They have the opportunity to do that. But we all get to do that in the space that we have, right? We don't get to do that in the world and stop other people from wanting to hear from other voices. And so for me, when we talk about book bannings, what this means, it's about silencing people. You know, at the very beginning, I wrote this down. Coretta says such impactful things. I'm telling you, there's a book right there, a full book. We need to get a book right now. It talks about how reading was against the law, pretty much, right, for Black people. And then when they found out that, you know, we couldn't read and we couldn't write, but now we were telling stories, and so storytelling, being in community, congregating together became banned, right? So when you talk about banning books, what that means is that you're stopping the method for people to communicate with each other and learn from each other. And what does that mean? Somebody's afraid. It means that somebody, maybe who has power, feels like they're gonna lose power, right? But really, are we kidding right now? We live in this day and age where even though you ban the book, okay, we're living in, Dr. Shai was talking about Web 3.0, okay? We're still over here living in Web 2.0, right? Which is the internet, okay? So the book bannings to me are really a message. It's really a message for us to be knowing who is for us versus against us. Because where there's a will, there is a way. And when you tell me that you're going to be banning these certain books, what you're saying is you're willing to silence voices to tell your truth. You don't want other people's truths to be told. You only want your truth to be in the narrative, in the thread, and you want other people to be. You wanna have your power because you've minimized other people's power, right? And so that is not how our society moves forward. So for me, the book bannings, you know, I don't agree with every single book that's ever been written, and there's some books I've read and I'm like, I don't agree with that, but I'm glad I read it. You know, now I know. You know, ignorance is not bliss, by the way. Okay, it's good to know things. And so when they say they're banning it for our children, when they're saying, oh no, our children shouldn't know this, our children probably already know half of the things, right? So the point here is just to keep the conversation going. Communication is the number one level of respect you can give a community. And so communication is through reading, it's through writing, it's through, you know, our eyes and ears with each other, right? Listening to each other, looking at each other in the eye, right? And so for me, the book bannings should be banned, okay? If that's even a thing. But it's a message, and I love it. And you know, I always say sometimes you pay attention. When something is being pushed back on, it means that something's working. It means that that's where you need to pay attention. Oh, you don't want us to look there? Now we're looking. So guess what? You thought you were banning the books, but now everybody's looking for those books that you banned and wondering why they were banned. So keep going, keep curating our books for us, because that's essentially what's happening right now. So go read all those banned books, because that's where the power is.
Yeah.
That's gonna be kind of hard to follow. Right?
She said it. That's it.
She did, and it's like, to add to it, the best way I could say it is just, they're trying to keep us in a time lapse. They're trying to revert back to their old ways and stuff, and it's like, they're trying to keep us in those same balls, those same chains, those same muzzles that we've had on our mouth, not being able to read, not being able to write, not being able to do the basic universal human rights that every single human deserves. And it's like, we've broken free from those balls and chains. We've broken free from those muzzles. We have something to say. We have a voice that needs to be heard. We have a story that needs to be told. And nothing is going to keep us from telling that story, because they've been trying to tell one side of the story for y'all know how long, but at the same time, now it's our turn to kind of even the playing field and tell our story as far as not only what our ancestors went through, not only what previous generations went through, but what we are currently going through, because we see things from a different perspective, and life is all about perspective. So it's like, if I offer my perspective based off of everything that's already happened and everything I'm doing currently to change it to where we can basically, again, like I alluded to, breaking those generational curses, that way we can manifest good karma from the universe and stuff like that. If we do that, we can continue to overcome the book banning, and we can continue to just ban that, as Lisa said, to where we can just continue to tell our overall story, because we have information, very, very valuable information that needs to be kept alive, that needs to be put away like in a safe to where we can take it out for the next generation. That way they can read it as far as gems to, okay, we know this happened already before, we know what we can do to fix it, so let's just put our mind to it and do it. It's just really simple. To be is to do, so let's just do it.
So Lisa said it all
Yes, she did.
and made all the connections between communication, the message, and about this idea of power. So I'm not going to say anything else about that because she said it all. But I will make a connection for you. Banned books has been going on, at least here in the United States, that they will note on paper in the books, 1637. We know it was before then because we know our plight with reading. But the thing is, it's just like what Lisa said. It's about when something's working, then that's when you get the pushback. So I don't know if you're paying attention to what's going on now outside of the book and reading spaces when it comes to DEI and that pushback. The same thing is happening. It's this idea of silencing, and when something's working, we must stop it. And so I'm just going to encourage you, just one, read those books, like Lisa said, read those books, put them on your list, and note that some of the other things are happening. They're trying out these different things to silence us. And so I really like that she mentioned about this idea of exclusion, because part of DEI is inclusion, and to be inclusive is to consider all these things and to read these books and allow these voices and stories to be told. And to not allow them is exclusion. And that is parallel with what's happening with DEI. So I think that we're not going to explore that a lot here today. But I think that's also a conversation as well, is looking at this progression of, okay, we tried this for all these years, that didn't work. Oh, this other thing that's very similar, the same reasons we ban books are the same things that diversity, equity, inclusion stands for. So maybe we should look at that now. So I'm not saying that is so, but I'm saying it's worth the conversation, because it's something to consider, because you think of the reasons that books are banned are because of who it's about. Sometimes it's language and some of those other things because it's graphic, but most of the time it's the elements that are around culture, right? It's around the characters that are presented. Sometimes it's in the language in that that they should or should not be using, all right, that's derogatory and or not. I think about, and there's some books, like Lisa said, like even though I think about Huck Finn, And I think about some of those that they use some language that I don't necessarily agree with, that, it's still this idea of silencing, so we shouldn't do that, right? It doesn't mean I have to read it, doesn't mean I have to believe it, but those are some things that I just encourage you to think about is not only are we talking about banned books, I think the conversation is a lot bigger, right? It's a lot bigger. The reasons why books are banned is, it's about the communication. It's about this dominant culture taking over and making sure that that's the voice is being heard. It's also who's banning, as Lisa said. Let's see what that makeup looks like. That's a whole conversation. But it's also, what are some other ways that this banned book issue is expanded? And I think that moves into this idea of this DEI, which is another reason. And I think that's going to, so Colleen, you let us know, okay, because you're in the library world, but let us know how that's going to even impact the book bans. Because I think it's this progression. And I think, yes, we think about it in isolation, but I think it's going to be banning more books. And if any of you know me, I'm a literacy professor, so literacy is my thing, and reading is my thing. And like Lisa said, it's out there, we can access it. I've experienced more banned books and encountered with that in K-12, but we still read excerpts. We didn't read the book. We read a chapter, we read a short story or an excerpt from certain books. But there's always a way around it, and I encourage you to use the technology, use the tools that are available to you to access these texts, because there's power in the text, and you may find your voice in reading what they have written.
Thank you so much. Those were some great responses, and I love, especially from a library standpoint, what you said, Lisa, about the second a kid or a young person sees that a book is on that top of the book list, that becomes the most popular book in our library immediately. I did a display years ago, had Maya Angelou on there. I had a kid run up, she went, Maya Angelou has been banned, where is she? I was like, all right, I'll show you, right over there. So yeah, like you said, as soon as, especially the adults and the older people start pushing back, that's when the younger people go, that's what I want to read.
That's what I want to read. It's always the opposite of it.
Yeah, it is. So, is there any questions that anyone would like to ask for our authors?
Yes, my question deals with, you talked about it several times, about technology. We're in the age of AI. So how do you see that revolutionizing the literary world?
Ooh, Lisa, I'm gonna give that to her. AI.
Yeah, I think they're giving it to me because I actually have, my latest book is Become an AI Hero. And it's centered on the idea that we can all be heroes in this AI era. So what that means is, we don't just jump into using artificial intelligence with a blind eye and saying, wow, I can use programs like ChatGPT or Gemini or Cloud, right? And just have it write for me my paper. I know we have some professors here that probably like, no, do not do that. Must be original content, right? And so what I would say here about the intersection between AI and writing is it's gonna create more authors, right? So we do have more authors. And I consider AI almost like our thought leader. Not our thought leader, our thought partner. So this is somebody who, think about a friend who you can say, hey, I want to write a book, and they're really good at that topic, and they can help translate your thoughts into writing. Now, they're not writing your book, they're just helping you put it together. The reason why, help you process the information. They may ask you questions that you hadn't thought about. They may identify gaps in the information that you've written and say, hey, I love where you're going. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that, right? Based off of historical information. The thing with AI, for me, is that it's not pulling from anything that hasn't been created already. It's pulling from data of what's already been written, what's already out there. So somebody else owns that information, so it's copyrighted. But the most important thing is you probably have ideas that have sparked in your mind that don't exist already for AI to even understand how those come together. There's been things that I've written into ChatGPT or whatever and asked it to connect the dots and said, has anybody else done this? And it said, no, nobody's thought about it that way, but great idea, right? And so you have to think about the fact that you are, again, an unrepeatable miracle, okay? So you have thoughts and ideas and you have perspectives and you have experiences that have led you to be who you are. So you can use AI to be your, I guess you could say, helper in writing the books, but you have to consider first bias, right? So AIs are biased because they're using past information. And we've heard about bans, right? So there is information that's banned, whose voice is being elevated in the data that's presented to in the AI. Think about transparency. Are you gonna be transparent with your audience that you wrote the book with an AI? Did the AI write the book or did you write the book, right? And then we also think, yeah. And then we can also think about dependability, right? Especially with our children. I always like to think about, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So if we're just gonna be using AI to write our books and our kids are not gonna be able to have that critical thinking, which is really our superpower as humans, right? Our superpower is our intelligence, our creativity, our way of thinking. The AI can't do that. All it's doing is regurgitating patterns that it's seen in things that have already been written and things that it's seen, right? Which may be right or wrong, and sometimes it may be hallucinating, which means it's telling a lie. It's just connecting dots that don't even exist, right? And so I like that, right? So if somebody tells a lie to you in the future, next time you're gonna say, oh, so you're hallucinating right now, right? That's like a nice way of saying, I think you're lying to me, right? I think you're hallucinating, so I'll just give you a pass. So yeah, so I would say, I'm not gonna go on and on because you can read my book, Become an AI Hero. But what I would say here is that you can be an AI hero. The goal is to use the AI. I'm not trying to say, I want to live in this era where we have AI, y'all, okay? This is a good era. How many of y'all are wearing smartwatches? How many of y'all have smartphones? Who talked to their Alexa this morning, right? Who drove over here, didn't know where this thing was, but you used GPS, okay? This building right here, I didn't know where it was. I used GPS to get here. We would not be who we are today as actualized humans if we were not using AI. But we must use it safely so it's not harming people and it's protecting other people's content. Thank you so much.
So here I am, I'm gonna push again. So exactly what she said. Therefore, I'm gonna summarize my own conclusion here. With Web3, I mentioned that part of it is ownership. So now when I put out content, I think about, and I'm really strategic about how I put out content. I put out content that I have published that has my name attached to it in some way that's documented. So if someone does use ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, some of these other things, Bard, I think, well, they got rid of Bard, they went to Gemini. But when they use these other platforms, I have something like legally. It says, those are my words, that's my content, that's my intellectual property. Going forward, intellectual property is very important. So some people wonder, if you look at my post is really about self-promotion, a lot of them, or it's about my family and just stuff I'm doing. I don't put out my scholarly or my academic content a lot. I don't put out my original thoughts unless I've already have published it. So like I'm working on the book that Lisa's talking about around Web3 future work and stuff. So even though I'm in that space, I advertise and I talk about and promote that I'm doing things in that work. So it's documented, I am working in that, so people know that I'm getting experience, but my original content you won't see until my book is published. And that is intentional, that is strategic. So I'm going to, as we move into this AI era, as these emerging technologies take over, think about your data. One of the things that people do, I know we used to do it used to be no big deal. Put your, hey, happy birthday on Facebook. Yeah, happy birthday, right? But they have your birthday now. And especially if you put the year, how old you are. So so typically I don't say happy 21st birthday. I usually don't do that on Facebook. I may say happy birthday, but I'm not putting the year, so they can't put the year together. But then they have your complete birthday. They have your name. All they need is one other piece of information, and then they can steal your identity these days. So even the content you put out, you gotta be careful. And so I think about that even when it comes to writing and publishing. If my content's gonna be out there, it's going to be attached to my name and it's gonna be published. And it's gonna be a way that I can document. A lot of us don't think about copyright, we don't think about trademark, we don't think about those things. But even in those situations, if you don't do the legal things around it, If you do little things like publish your content in your book, then you have a leg to stand on, because it's always the first one who used it or said it, right? So those are some of the things that I think about when I think about publishing, when I think about writing books. You know, yes, I have some of the same things that Lisa mentioned about, you know, I talk with the English faculty a lot because they get all upset about AI. I'm like, embrace, it's a tool, and you can't just have them regurgitate information now. You just gotta be creative, you gotta change your pedagogy. But that's a whole nother thing, we'll do an education segment later. But today I just wanna say, think about your intellectual property and what you're putting out there. And so even some of the things that we put out there about other people, I'm even now more careful, because like Lisa said, AI scrapes all that data. So anything that you put on any platform, anywhere, it scrapes it and it uses it to inform whatever the response is, whatever that prompt is that the person has put in there. So that's kind of how I think about publishing, and I think about your words, and we've been encouraging you to think about how you can capture what you think, what you say, what you believe in a text, to make sure you be careful how you put it out to the world, especially my scholars. Environment.
Yeah. Making sure to cite your sources and all that. I know we have a question back here. Did you have a question? Okay.
So I really enjoyed this panel. It was way interesting than what I thought it was going to be. So thank you. So some of the takeaways that I attributed to, you guys gave me fruit for thought. You know, Coretta started off with saying how history is repeating itself with silencing our voices, and we need to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're active to find countermeasures to prevent that. I think Dr. Tammy coined catalyst, which is the new aha moment that Oprah Winfrey coined. So you can use it, that's good. Know your catalyst, that's really good. I took that away. Talked about legacy and ownership, putting that together, that we need to talk about. Not only are we working to achieve a better life for our families, but everything that we do artistically, our skills, our talent, you need to think about your legacy and take ownership of it. You know, somebody compliments it, oh yeah, that's nice, you're flattering, whatever, but take ownership of that. And what I didn't think about, you coming from Kenya, Lisa, you know, even Black History Month, I think here in America we take it for granted. And the same with yearbooks, we take that for granted too. And it was really refreshing for you to bring that up, how just the little things that we have today, although we feel like we should be more, but we're taking things for granted. So I thank you for reminding us of that. Especially this quote that you said, we are an unrepeatable miracle. So that is huge. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Hello and good afternoon to the panelists. Thank you for being here. I apologize about my lateness. And hello to the audience, and thank you to the Corpus Christi Black Chamber of Commerce for putting this together on our history, Black History Month. So my question to each panelist is, this is great that you all are self-published and that you put out a plethora of books for us to consume. As audience members and community members of the Coastal Bend community, what would you say our action plan is? What should we do in our position? And my name is Leticia Wilson, and I'm ready to hear your feedback.
So I would like to believe that everyone in here is a writer and would love to write their own story and have just time to write. And so I do want you to think about, are you really? And it doesn't have to be tomorrow. It may not even be next week. It may not even be next year. But if you have a story and you want to write it down, you have that desire to put it on paper and to share it with the world, to do it. And do it at your pace, at your own pace. Some of us in here, hopefully all of us, because I'm biased, and I think everybody should be a reader. And so if you're a reader, think about some of the things we talked about. There were some great book suggestions today for you to check out. I encourage you to put those on your list for 2024. I know I go into each year saying I'm going to read this many books. I think about my months, I try to be realistic, right? I'm not being overzealous, saying I'll read 500 books this year. I'm really realistic, even if it's 12, one per month or whatever, I'm realistic, and I think that some of the books that you have written, that you should do that. So I think your charge is, if you're going to write, oh, my journal, I have it, DC, in the bag, raise it up, that little beige looking book. It's okay if the pen falls out, just hold it up like that. I carry that everywhere. It's my thoughts. It's kind of like Lisa's yearbook. It goes everywhere with me, my podcast, everything I put in there. And some of those become seeds for volume 2, which will be out this year. It may become a part of the Web3, the Leveraging Technologies book that I'll have coming out later this year. It may be my podcast. It may be just a broadcast when I go on and just say, hey, look, America, look world, this is what we have to think about. But I think it's just, one, grabbing a journal, grabbing some place to capture your thoughts. Some of you may be digital. Even though I am in the digital world, I love paper and pen. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still old school. I like that. But if you're one that likes your device, you can type it in there. So one, have a place to capture your thoughts. And no matter how messy, whatever, just put it in there. Like I have this page, I put podcast. This page, book. Right, so after I finish my thoughts, I get those out. Then I just label where they go, and then I sort it out. So that when my sons get I have a stack this high of what I've kept since I was little. Of those little books, it's probably higher than that, but let's just pretend that it's from the floor to this. But they'll have all my thoughts. Some of them is probably not so pretty because even with relationships, like all of it, it's literally a journal, like of everything. But have some way to capture that. 2, if you're a writer, write. If you're a reader, and I hope you all are, read. Maybe it's one book this year you read. Maybe you take Lisa's book, Become an AI Hero, and you read that one book. One you're reading, one you're thinking about the future because it's talking about AI and where we're going. And 3, it's about inclusion. Part of her subtitle. I would say it, but I don't want to mess it up. But I know inclusion is in there, and it's about being inclusive. So it's also addressing ways that you can create a space of inclusion where people belong. And so I think like you can do, with one book, you can capture the different things that's happening in the world. If you just need encouragement, you can pick up mine. If you want to be more into health and fitness and thinking about that as well, you can pick up Clifton's book. But I just pick up one book if that's your goal. So I think it depends. I've never wanted to like just prescribe for everyone what you should do because it depends on where you are. But I think as of what we talked about today, I think those are some of the things that were mentioned. Capture your thoughts, write them down. And then if it's something that you want to turn into something published, move to that direction. And if it's just reading, just read some of these banned books. Read some of these texts that are prohibited in spaces, maybe in your industry. Find one in your industry, right, and read that, and become familiar with what is being silenced. There's a reason it's being silenced. There's a reason that someone is putting that, I'm gonna use Leticia's term, putting people on mute, there's a reason why that's happening. And it may be important to figure that out. Education is a big space, and I know my Sarahs are in the house. I must give them a shout out. I know Sarah Evans had to leave, but Zetas are in the house today. Thank you so much for your support, by the way. So I have to say that, sorry, and that's for you. We represent. But I just think that, that's kind of where you start. You just start wherever you are and do something, because there's something within the pages. They always said, like talk about history, they always said, and I always heard growing up, if you don't want someone to know something, and typically it was with the Black community, put it in a book. But the books, some of those books, people did put it in books, like James Baldwin, read his stuff. Cutting edge, especially now, and where we're in an age of talking about identity and some of those things and culture. Read some of his material, but they put it in the book, but then they banned it. We need to go back to those books, even if they were written 60 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. There's something in there that they didn't want us to know, that we probably need to know. Because as we know, history repeats itself, or never progress. which is why we're still having some of the same conversations and the same fights we have today. I'm gonna hush because I can talk about that all day. Leticia hit my button. She hit my button. One, I love giving people some strategy and some things to do, but I also like let's go, let's revolutionize, let's do this.
That's some good stuff. I'm just taking that all in. But do you ever stop and take a moment and just take a look back at your life and think, what are you trying to leave behind? That would be the best response that I can get to you in regards to the question that you just asked, is just take a moment, I get it. Our mind's constantly racing. We're constantly on the go. We're constantly busy. Always seems like we're in a hurry. But at the same time, just take a moment, breathe in, breathe out, and just remove yourself from your thoughts, remove yourself from all the emotions, the ego and all, and just ask yourself, what are you leaving behind when you take a look back in your life? Why are you here as far as within this world that we're currently living in? What is your end game? Because that's a big thing. I mean, because if you haven't noticed what's going on in the world right now, we are literally in the end game. So it's like, what is your end game and what are you trying to get out of what's left in this precious, precious world? Because we literally gotta cherish every single moment. And that's really starts with just going to the source to where you can find all the answers, which is really your heart. Start from your heart. And when you start from your heart, that story will be there to where you can tell it to the world, to where you could also be at peace within yourself, being able to get that off of the heavy heart that you may have, to where you can, of course, spread more peace in the world, more love in the world, more positive vibrations in the world, to where we can just heal the planet that we're currently living on, because it's dying every single day. And that's why we keep on having these same conversations about things like critical race theory. That's why we keep having these conversations as far as why is racism still shaping America's current public policies still to this very day with everything that's going on. We just need to just search for ourselves from within and just realize, again, like I alluded to earlier, we all want to be successful just as a whole, united as one. We just need to put the ego and the pride aside and just embrace where it all started, which is from the heart, which is why, in honor not only of just the Black History Month, but also American Heart Month, because we got to take care of ourselves within the heart, I encourage everybody to come out to my Healthy Heart Festival that I'm going to be having this coming Tuesday at Mission of Mercy, where we can learn how to start from the heart, how we can take care of ourselves within that, to where we can make the world a better place, and at the same time, have a story to tell within the process.
I love that. You even came with an event prepared. Oh my goodness, what an action item. Tell us again about the event.
It's the second annual Healthy Heart Festival. It will be at Mission of Mercy, February 13th. Mark your calendars, everybody. 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m. It's about how you can improve your overall health, heart health, and how it ties into overall self-care, because we got to take care of ourselves if we're going to be able to tell our own story to begin with, because if you're not taking care of yourself, there's no story to tell about yourself.
Ooh, there's that unrepeatable miracle again. Tell your story. I have to give affirmation to Lisa Nichols. Who knows Lisa Nichols? Yes. So Lisa Nichols, that's the first time I ever heard that term. We are unrepeatable miracles. So I want to give credit to Lisa Nichols. So go watch Lisa Nichols. You will hear her saying that. In regards to action items for today, I would say, first of all, thank you so much for listening to us and giving us your time.
Yes,
I always
thank you
believe
so much.
time is the most precious commodity we have, right? And when Clifton talked about, what are you getting out of this thing, right? Because you came into this thing as a baby and you did not have plans. You were taken care of by somebody, right? And you found people working on projects. You found people doing the things they were doing. And guess what? When you're gone, there's still going to be projects and work, and people are still going to be busy, and people are still going to be banning books. All this is still going to be going on. But what is your existence going to be for, right? And so that's what I would say is an action item, is just let's start with what Clifton said, which is, what are you getting out of this thing, right? Why were you brought here? What do you have to leave here? And it may seem like such a big thing, like, oh, I don't know, I'm not gonna be Mother Teresa or like be Nelson Mandela. Like you may not end up being those historical contexts today, but what side of history are you gonna be on, right? Are you just gonna be neutral and be like, oh well, it's not harming me right now, or in my house, I'm good in my house, but like literally the situations that have happened historically happened because of people being neutral. Because people didn't see something happening and say, oh, that does not look right to have humans treated like that, right? People did not raise their hand and say that that was not good. So what side of history are you going to be on? An action item I would say is follow what Dr. Tammy said also, which is to start reading more, right? So if you're not reading right now, find something that you're interested in reading. And reading isn't just about reading. We have a whole library in here. I know. I always joke with people like it's really hard for me to like say I'm gonna grab that book and I'm gonna sit on the comfy chair and I'm gonna read that book. Like I have a hard time doing that. What I end up doing is, maybe this is a tip, just listen to some audio, right? So either you can get Audible. I know that there's a program from the library you can sign up for. I don't know what it's called. I used to sign up for it and then I would never get, in the beginning when you first launched it, I'm not complaining. But in the beginning, when the library first launched it, you could download these audiobooks, but then I guess you only had so many licenses, and so then the whole city found out about it, and then now I could never get my books, so now I'm on Audible.
Some things have shifted.
Some things have shifted, okay, well, you can get them for free if you have the library too, but just listen while you're driving, it's your car university, okay? Just throw something in there, something you're interested in. It doesn't have to be all like hardcore educational. It could be fun, it could be provocative, it could be like funny, it could be anything. Just hear what other people have to say. So that's what I would say. That's how you start. And then second, like I told you, I did not come out of this thing thinking I was gonna be an author. I was putting my yearbook. I wanted a yearbook. Okay, everyone's talking about a yearbook. I needed a place to like document things like I see other people doing. And it just turned into this passion that I had for really keeping track of the things that I'm doing over the year, and I love looking back and seeing, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, what the heck was I thinking? I was doing all this stuff, it was really awesome. And so I would say just use your path. You don't have to be a prolific writer. You could be writing quotes and putting them together for your legacy to enjoy later. So action items. Find out what are you in this thing for at the end of the day? What's the point? What's the point of this ride? And then next, read some verbiage, and then write your own stuff. It doesn't have to be perfectly written words that have been edited by the most perfect editor. It could just be a journal with quotes that people can enjoy. Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. If there's anyone else who has a question for our panel.
I have a question for you.
Oh,
So, Colleen, okay, so I'll be a bit transparent. I got a library card in Corpus Christi when I was in grade school. I have no idea where it is. So how do we get a library card and how can we access the library materials? Now, is it, maybe I don't even use cards anymore, maybe I'll use a QR code, I have no idea. So could you tell us about that process in accessing the resources here in the library? Because I'm really curious.
yes, absolutely. So as long as you have an ID with your current Corpus address on it, then you can get a library card for free. If your ID is a little bit out of date and you don't have your Corpus address, maybe you moved from San Antonio or somewhere else, if you have a piece of mail that just shows like a utility bill or something, that's perfectly fine. We'd love to try to work with people. We want as many people to be able to read as possible.
Can we get one today?
Yes, we can, as long as it's before 2 o'clock. we do close at 2 o'clock. So, but yes, you could get one today, and as soon as you get your library card, it is working. There is no waiting period. We have all of our physical books that are available to you to check out. We also have iCloud, or no, I keep wanting to call it iCloud, Cloud Library and Boundless, which are 2 apps that you can download to any of your smart devices. And that's where you can find your ebooks and your e-audiobooks. And that we've had some shifting going on with our e-technology. We're trying to find the correct one that works best for our community. But yes, we have all of our books, and not just the ones here, the ones at all of our branches. We have 6 branches in the city of Corpus Christi, and you have access to all of them with your library card. And you can pick the one that is closest to you to be your home library. we have the book and say Central Library downtown is your home library, you can have one of our books sent down there, so you don't have to go all the way out here. So we try to keep as much access open as we can, and we always want to hear from the community of what you all are interested in, so you can also do purchase suggestions, request us to see if we can find a book. Sometimes when they're older, they're a little hard to find, but especially contemporary materials and anything like that, we are always trying to find what we're interested in.
Can we donate books that are new?
Yes, you can donate books as long as they're in good condition. We don't want your old encyclopedias from the 70s, which we've had donated before. But yes, definitely if they are a new book and they're in good condition, then you can donate them. All right. Anything else? All right. That's it. That's what it's for.
Everyone, shout out to Colleen. This is a passion of hers. I was his help. God used me to partner with her to make this dream come true. So everyone thank her. For she reached out to me.
Thank you.
Smile.
I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I hope, we did record it, so we're gonna post it on our Black Chamber Facebook page. You can go back and look at it again because there was so much good stuff. I mean, it was just like gumbo. It was stew. It was that stuff that could just keep giving you life. Just go back and rewatch all the knowledge and the wisdom and the inspiration that we were able to just nurture today, and just use that as your catalyst to, from now on, to be an avid reader, an avid life learner, an avid appreciation of the footsteps your ancestors have left for you to follow and build on. What is going to be your legacy? What is going to be your legacy? Because we all have one. We all have a memoir in us. It's your story. It's your life. You're here today. We survived the pandemic. Do y'all understand that? We survived a global pandemic. So God has a plan and a purpose for you because you're still here. You're still here. Everybody's talking about, books. And we got the good book, the Bible, but there's an Ethiopian Bible that is the original, not the King James Version.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole nother issue. But start reading, start learning, allow it to help you grow and become a better global citizen. Because we're part of a global community. That's why I was just God just had me put these three authors on. Yeah, okay. I already knew when she said, okay, let's do this thing. I already know which three people I wanted to hear from. Because you have the global perspective, you have a male perspective, and you have a Black female perspective, and it was just perfect. So thank God for the putting that on my heart, and thank you for being here, allowing us to bring these type of programs to you. As the Black Chamber grows, we want to not only reflect the community that we serve, but also serve as a catalyst as an organization for better conversations, to push for better outcomes in our community. So I'm gonna end it there, unless Colleen wants to say something in closing, give you time to go get your library card and network and buy some books, support our Black authors, buy some books, get their cards, get their information. Let's use this as a building block to a Black active literary community. Black Chamber can host it until whoever wants to, Yes, we have a sign-in sheet in the back. for those who didn't sign in, because I want to make sure that we continue the conversation, continue the connection, so that we can build on it. I know there's a lot more authors out there. It's just trying to find them, so if everybody comes across somebody, like, come on in.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank Coretta and the Black Chamber of Commerce again for working with me, and our authors for coming out, and all of you for coming out. And I do apologize about the parking situation and the kerfuffle out there in the parking lot. We did not know about that when we came in this morning. But you all have a great day. If you want to get a library card, you can go up to our circulation desk and get your library card. There's still plenty of refreshments back there if you want some refreshments, and of course, talk to our authors. All right, thank you all.
Buy your book, get an autograph.